So our next speaker is Rhiannon Dixon. She's the Commonwealth and EBU champion, and she is fighting for her first world title next month over in Manchester. Rhiannon, over to you.
So, hi, thanks for having me. So my name's Rhiannon. I'm from Warrington. I'm a professional boxer. I initially got into boxing. It wasn't actually anything to do with boxing. It was I used to be really into the UFC and watching the UFC, and Ronda Rousey came on TV, and I was like, wow, she's one of the coolest people I've ever seen. And she did this interview and she was like, I'm not a do nothing bitch. Every muscle in my body serves a purpose. And I thought, wow, like that is a personal attack on me, because no muscle in my body serves a purpose. So I got in touch with an MMA gym in Wigan, and he said, well, if you've never done any mixed martial arts before, you're better off starting with boxing. So I started boxing, but before that, I'd never done any martial arts. I think I did ballet, tap and modern from like 2 to 15. I dabbled in and out of like CrossFit and cross country, but I never really found like what my passion was until I started boxing. And I obviously started boxing really late. At that time, I was at university to become a pharmacist. I've always been really academic. So at college, I did like biology, chemistry, maths and physics. And I've got a master's degree in pharmacy, and I was working as a pharmacist at the time. So it's a bit of a crazy career change, going from helping people in a hospital to like hurting people, which I don't even like doing. I say it all the time. I really don't like doing it. And Anthony says I'm too soft, but I can't help it. So I've had this weird career change. But it happened because I was working at the hospital, going to training. I was up at like 6 a.m, getting into work and then leaving at 2. And I was like half-hearted in both of them. I couldn't give 100% to either of them. And it come to a point where I was so tired in work and so tired at training that I thought, I'm only young once and I've got to like give it everything I've got. So I was quite fortunate at the time that I met a guy called Lee Wilson who helped me with sponsorship. So gradually I was able to like reduce my hours to the point where I was able to stop it completely. So I'm very fortunate in that sense, and I'm fortunate in the sense that I'm with Matchroom and Paul and Anthony, and they have a lot of belief in me, and they've given me these opportunities to like fight for the Commonwealth and the European and now a world title, which like a year and a half ago I was working in a pharmacy, well, in a hospital. So it's a bit crazy the trajectory I've been on, but the only way I can say thank you is by winning these fights and performing well. So it's been a bit crazy. I'll start from like going from white collar to where I am now. I haven't taken like the traditional route of, like coming through the amateurs and then possibly like going to the Olympics or having loads of amateur fights. I think I had 7 white collar fights. And my coach at the time was like, oh, do you fancy going professional? And I was like, oh, yeah, it's not a big deal. Like, I'll go professional. I was so wrong. I had my first spar with a professional girl. Well, I got beat up, right? And I thought, I need to start taking this seriously. Like, it's not a thing you can be playing with. I had a few fights under my old coach, and then COVID happened. So that obviously took precedent at that time because it was more important to me personally at that time. So I was working on a COVID ward, and you learn a lot about yourself working through the pandemic and things like that, which I'm sure all of you learn stuff about yourself during the pandemic. And then when things opened up, it was kind of like I got my contract with Matchroom, which was crazy. I think Anthony was hounding Eddie for months, like, I've got this really good, like sending him videos, and I bet he thought, oh, do you know what? I'll just give her a chance. Like, I'll make Anthony shut up and I'll just give her a fight. And it couldn't have gone any worse, my debut with Matchroom. So before that, I had a warm-up fight because I hadn't fought for a few years. Because of the pandemic. And I actually tore a tendon in my knuckle, and I had to have surgery on it, but they could only do it in the January. and I had my matchroom debut in December, so I had to get local anaesthetic put in it, and I couldn't really punch with it. And I come out the ring, and I was like, "Dan, are they going to want me back?" Like, that was probably the worst matchroom debut I've ever seen in my life. And he was like, "No, of course they want you back." And then now fighting for the Commonwealth and Europe and a world title, I mean, it's madness, really. So yeah, now fighting for a world title.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And I love your story. And I know one person that is going to have their hand up at the end of this, because I can see her itching. She's coming through the same way as you with the white collar. But just going on to your world title fight that's coming up, how's your training going for that now? And obviously, how does it differ from when you were training part-time and when you were training white collar? What's the difference?
I feel like my whole way of training's just completely changed. Like, I know so much more now about the sport and like nutrition and like the training that I should be doing. Like, back when I had my debut, I was still having a Domino's a week. Like, I would never even think about doing that now. Like, I'm actually shocked that I did that. But like, I've got a nutritionist. Like, I've got I have S&C. I didn't even do S&C then. I think I just kept on jogging forever, and I wasn't even good at it. I've got an S&C now. I'm training with Anthony. Like, I feel like I've got the best. I've looked and seen like, oh, who's good at this and and I've got the best people around me to kind of like guide me in the way to go. And I feel like I'm just getting fitter and stronger. I've even got abs now. Like, I showed Anthony the other day, I have a 4-pack. My brother told me people with the surname Dixon cannot get abs, and I've shown him wrong, because I've got 4-pack now.
Amazing. Oh, I love your honesty, Rhiannon. It's brilliant. I'm going to put it out to the crowd. Anybody got a question for Rhiannon? I can't see my full screen. Yeah, Emma. I knew Emma would be there. Emma, go ahead.
You knew I was coming, didn't you?
From her coming on, I could see your face light up and you were itching. As soon as she mentioned being a white collar boxer, I thought, oh God, go on, ask your question.
Yeah, so that's I got into boxing about 3 years ago now, signing up randomly for a white collar. I did about 3 white collars and then started unlicensed. So yeah, I mean, how do you kind of, because obviously you've gone from white collar to pro, so that's like a massive kind of gap. How did you find that?
Yeah, I thought I didn't, because obviously the gym that I went to, I didn't know the difference between amateur, white collar, and professional. I just thought everyone was like one thing, and then now it's this big smack of reality. There's a massive difference between amateur and white collar. And my first white collar fight, I was meant to be fighting a girl called Chelsea. You might have had something that's similar that's happened to you, and this, not being rude, but a lot larger girl turned up than me. And I said to my coach at the time, I went, "Is her name Chelsea?" And he went over, and I swear her name was like Hannah or something. And I thought, oh no, I'm getting in with this huge girl, and she's going to beat me up in front of my mum. But I thought, you know what, you just got to do it now, or you'll never do it. And I did it, and I won. So, you know, I think I've just got that mentality now, like, oh, just got to do it.
Really weird. My first white collar was called Chelsea as well.
You might have got the real Chelsea.
Might have. No, that's amazing. Thank you.
Anybody else got a question for Rhiannon before she goes? Melissa, go ahead.
Yes, hi. I'm just curious, you know, what is it that motivated you to turn pro, having been an amateur? What was it that sparked your interest? Continue.
So at the time, my best friend had just turned professional in the gym, James Moorcroft, and I was seeing how well he was doing. And I thought, oh, like, this would kind of be like my first step to being like, you know, how Ronda Rousey was for me to potentially be that for someone else. And I think like my story is not like obviously the conventional route where I've only got boxing. Like, I've been to university, I went to college, and I've shown that you can kind of like, you don't have to pick one thing and stick at it. I even tried being a maths teacher. I would never ever do that. Like, worst decision of my life, because I thought it'd fit in better with boxing. It doesn't. So I feel like, you know, you've got to try things to see if they work for you. And I've luckily found my passion later on in life that it is boxing, after trying all them other sports that didn't work out for me. So hopefully my story might inspire someone else later on to think, oh, you know, I am 21, I'm a too old. No, I'm not, because she did it, and she's fighting for a world title now.
Yeah. Brill, got one more question. Craig's got his hand up, and then we'll move on to the next speaker. Thank you. Craig, go ahead.
So we run health and wellbeing programs for lots of different ages of young women from 5 to the ages of 17, and a lot of them are struggling with confidence and resilience and mindset, and either going through neurodiversity, undiagnoses, and all the rest of it. And like, from my point of view, listening to your story from transitioning from pharmacy to boxing to now going into a world title fight, I don't know if you do any sort of motivational speaking or speaking to young women, but we see about 500 to 600 young women a month with lots of diverse range of issues. And I think we've got a team of women that have got lived experience with mental health issues and listening to a sporting professional. I think it's so inspirational listening to your story. But if you do anything like that, either that be virtual or physical, because if you're in Warrington, you're only down the road from us.
Oh yeah, I would love to do that. I don't think I'm good at this, like public speaking and stuff. I try. I've got clammy hands right now, but I'd love to do it. I did my dissertation.
We'll sort that out after.
It's because from my point of view, it's honest and it's natural and it's not false. And I think, like, you're speaking from the heart. You're saying, I've only stopped having a Domino's for a year or something like that. And then girls would like really resonate with that because they don't understand nutrition as a psychological and physiological benefit or negative. So like, I think the honesty about it will go a long way in helping the young women and just being yourself, like being natural and all the rest of it. Young people pick up and people aren't being honest. So I think it'll be quite inspirational for them young women to hear you.